Welcome to OTA Live, where we spotlight the brightest minds and stories that matter. Let's make change happen together.
We are going to be joined by David Ajala. David is actually in the States at this moment in time. David, can you hear me? Can you?
That's brilliant.
David, I'm going to give you a very brief introduction, and that as my second guest tonight. And David, you require very little of an introduction. A role model in the acting sphere, best known for roles as Manchester Black in Supergirl, Captain Royers in Night Flyers, and most recently Cleveland Booker in Star Trek Discovery. Let's give David a big round of applause.
That's very kind. Thank you. Thank you.
And David, at a personal level, it's an absolute delight to see you again. We first met early in 2021. You were indeed one of our first to be interviewed on Off the Agenda. A delight to welcome you back. Before we get on to questions, and I'm going to predominantly ask you about Star Trek Discovery and aspects of the role, aspects of the extraordinary program that it is. I'm going to go straight into season 4. And I want to explore diversity within season 4 of Star Trek Discovery. And it continues its tradition of embracing diversity. How do you feel the show's portrayal of diverse characters and themes contributes to its impact on audiences?
I think the creator of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, always had a very clear vision of what he wanted Star Trek to be about. About science and being innovative and discovering and work together as a team and going beyond what one would think is possible. But aside from the adventures and the wonder of science, it's about relationships and it's about individuals. And I think one of the most special things with Star Trek in its entirety is the diversity is very visible and invisible at the same time. It's quite an oxymoron for something to be visible and invisible. It's visible because individuals get to see themselves reflected in front of them. It just so happens to be in a world which exists heavily in science. It's also invisible because these individuals and these characters that we see on screen get on with it. No one's looking at the mirror and wearing any kind of label which is oppressive. They've been given the freedom to be the best versions of themselves, not the perfect version, but the perfectly imperfect version of themselves. It's been an absolute pleasure being part of the franchise, and it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. And maybe, but perhaps looking at your own character and one of the aspects of this most recent series, navigating grief and loss. Cleveland Booker experiences, of course, profound loss with the destruction of his home planet in this latest season. How did you approach portraying such a complex emotional journey, and what do you hope viewers take away from it?
Wow, that's a very solid question. I've heard people who have spoken about grief being able to articulate it in a way that I found very, very profound and helpful. And they said that grief is unexpressed love. And it's interesting is whenever I'm playing whatever type of role, especially a character who's going through an unfathomable amount of pain and grief, my access point always has to be joy, because joy feels very, very close to me. Joy feels abundant. Joy feels safe. So I kind of use that as an access point as a launch pad, as it were, to launch into whatever energy of the character that I need to. It's funny because when you're on set and you're playing these scenes and your character's speaking about certain things, the mind-body can't differentiate what's real and what isn't. It just reacts and adapts to the created circumstances. So I make a conscious effort when I go home to decompress before I enter my apartment. So the metaphorical mat in front of my front door, I wipe my feet, I brush my body down, and I go inside my apartment. So I think it's very important not to carry your work with you into your home life.
Gosh,
Sometimes.
that's a very authentic answer, and perhaps looking at the technology and humanity, which in large part Star Trek juxtaposes so well. The show often explores the relationship between advanced technology and human nature. So how does Book's connection, by way of example, to animals and nature juxtapose with the technological advancements featured in this wonderful series?
Charles, that is such a wonderful question. You kind of deserve a round of applause, but we'll do it after I give my answer. Don't need to upstage me now. What's so wonderful about the character Cleveland Booker is he is an empath, and he's also a courier. And what reviewers have said in publications, they said this after they've watched my performance, they said that Cleveland Booker is Star Trek's answer to Han Solo. But the difference with Cleveland Booker is he has a healthier moral compass, which is in line with his humanitarian efforts. So Cleveland Booker is the kind of guy that, when possible, would rescue endangered species, which are being captured, killed, and sold for profit. He's the guy that would intercede, capture, or rescue even that creature and take it back to its natural habitat. So how does that link with the innovations of technology and the advancements of science and what have you? He is a character that is from the future. So though he's very connected with Earth, though he's very connected, with the world and nature, he also is part of the technology which is set probably 1,000 years in the future, which is very innovative. It's hard to kind of quantify the vastness of the technology that we're talking about. Because it's so far into the future, it feels connected and almost disconnected to the present day of what we see and hear. But to kind of answer your question somehow-ish, is Cleveland Booker represents the wonderful amalgamation of someone who's very connected with his past, with nature, and is also very connected with technology that exists many years into the future.
That's fantastic. And of course, Star Trek has had an extremely long history of using science fiction to reflect on contemporary social issues or societal issues. How do you think season 4 continues that tradition? And what societal topics do you think the show addresses, and how effective is it in doing so?
I mean, rightly said, one of the wonderful things with Star Trek is its boldness when it comes to social commentary. And the wonderful thing I love about the franchise in its entirety is that everything is up for discussion. And everything is up for discussion in a very healthy, safe, supported, respectful environment. Specifically for season 4, I think season 4 definitely aligns itself with when the world experienced COVID-19. And it was about this thing which was very, very new and was obviously kind of infiltrating its way into lives and causing unimaginable pain. And it's how we're able to deal with these things as a society, as a species, while maintaining some level of hope to push through. I think it's a very, very primal, powerful thing to hold on to hope, because I think hope is also connected with faith, to believe in a better tomorrow. And sometimes when it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, for me, I think season 4 represented a reminder that maybe we are the light in the tunnel.
David, that is a wonderful answer. Hope, faith, and with it, aspiration. We'll perhaps come back to that as my final question, which you will know probably what I'm going to ask. But actually looking at the other side of sci-fi, science fiction, it has in the past been criticised perhaps for underrepresentation of the minority or of minority groups. How do you feel that Star Trek Discovery contributes to breaking the stereotypes and offering meaningful roles for actors from diverse backgrounds?
Well, I can wonderfully and happily speak from the horse's mouth. When this role was pitched to me, I remember reading it and thinking, this is fun. This feels very, very fresh, immediate, unapologetic. And that there's a version of this guy which could have existed, which is an actor like myself, a lot fairer in complexion, clean shaven, neat haircut. But the creatives and myself came to a very unspoken synergy, which was this guy is going to be beautifully dark-skinned black. And what I mean by that is the unapologetic, wonderful essence and energy of who this individual is. So I'm going to walk with a little bit of a bop. I'm going to have stubble. My character had a little slit in his eyebrow. And I was born and raised in Hackney. And a lot of the guys who I went to school with, it was a thing of being cool, so to say, to have a little slit in the eyebrow. So the reason why my character has a little slit in the eyebrow is so that anyone who I grew up with in Hackney who recognizes that slit will know that they too are in space and it's possible.
That's a tremendous answer. Absolute wonderful answer. And maybe just in terms of you know, Hackney, USA, cultural differences. You've been an actor who've worked both in the UK and the US. How do you perceive the differences in opportunity and the challenges, particularly for black actors in these two entertainment industries a few thousand miles apart?
I'll say one thing, Mr. Charles. The UK industry prepared me in the most wonderful way to be able to really hone in on my craft.
Yep.
And to allow my natural default, whether I'm working in the UK or working in Hollywood, to always be about the work. So for that reason, I think it's put me in such good stead to navigate the enormity of Hollywood and the bells and the whistles. It's also made me appreciate getting very, very well paid. I'll tell you straight. Listen, we're all adults here. In the UK, I know how much I was earning doing a short film or playing a series regular or doing a film or being on the stage. I love what I do. I could do it for free. Working in America has definitely afforded me the ability to be able to just think on a larger scale. I go back to the guys that I grew up with in Hackney, guys and girls, and how talented some of these individuals were. And I recognize that I'm in a very, very privileged position. So what's been very, very wonderful for me is being able to earn and have more financial flexibility has also afforded me the ability to one of those guys who look like me, who has dreams and ideas, instead of them having to find a way to get connected into the industry, I get introduced to them. If I don't know them, or if it's someone I do know, I'm able to say, that short film you want to do, say less, I'll finance it. I can't express the joy that brings me. I don't need all the money in the world, but to be able to do that, to be able to give someone else a yes the same way I've been given a yes, I've won. It's impossible for me to lose.
Another fabulous answer. And coming from London and now working in Hollywood and internationally more widely across the globe, what?
Sorry, Charles, can you say that again? That just sounded good. Coming from London. Like, please.
Hollywood, you like that word? I'll say that one more time. Happily say that. that many times. But what are your personal experiences? What's shaped your understanding of diversity and inclusion in the entertainment industry, and how does that influence you as you approach your roles and the stakeholders that you engage with in your role as an actor?
This is going to sound quite profound, but my understanding of diversity and how we're all wonderfully very, very different has made me love humans even more. Because I think our differences is what makes this world interesting. And I think it's very, very easy to be cynical and be afraid of our differences. But I think our differences have the potential to bring out the best in each other. So now when I'm looking at scripts and reading stories, I get so much joy when I can see myself in a character who looks very different to me, who has a different walk of life, has a different background or whatever. Being able to see a bit of myself in them, as selfish as it may sound, makes me feel so connected. And I believe that everyone deserves that. To see yourself in someone who doesn't look like you, but then also to absolutely see yourself in someone who looks exactly like you. And maybe they might have a little slit in their eyebrow.
Absolutely fabulous. Well, look, Star Trek and indeed sci-fi, we said earlier, often serve as that catalyst for societal change and progress. Season 4, a remarkable season. Might you be able to give us a glimpse as to what we can expect as we look forward for Star Trek? What are the new themes that are going to come from it?
The new themes, so the latest season, season 5, that's the final season. That has the same themes of togetherness, of troubleshooting as a team, of empowering each other to stand tall, to be the best version of themselves. I think ultimately, because season 4 is quite heavy, I think season 5 is about fun and adventure. So we're definitely leaning on all the touchstones that make Star Trek Star Trek. But then also, you know, we're kind of dabbling with classic films like Indiana Jones and Romancing the Stone. And for those of you who know the movie Coming to America, there's a little nod to Coming to America, which I'm quite proud of. But while I'm here in Spain, I'm working on another project, which is super cool. It's a murder mystery. It's called 9 Bodies in a Mexican Morgue. And we're in the middle of shooting. It is fun, it is mysterious, and it keeps me on my toes.
Tremendous, tremendous. David, again, you are an extraordinary role model, like Dame Sharon that we interviewed before you. And my final question, as I asked Dame Sharon, and it's related to what we've discussed all the way through, we live in these complex and challenging times where hope, and you used that word a little earlier, and aspiration is indeed much, much needed. What are the lines of support, encouragement, advice would you give to that next generation as they begin their own career path?
It was mentioned earlier, and I couldn't agree more. Kindness. Kindness is such a wonderful, abundant gift to receive and to give. But I think it's better to give than to receive, with the hope that that kindness which you've put out will come back to you. Let's say, for example, you are kind to someone, it doesn't immediately come back. I think in a healthy way, it forces you to dig a little deeper, to keep offering from that abundant place of kindness. I feel the world might be a little better place if we're more kind to each other. One of my favorite quotes is from a poet called Erin Hansen. And there's 2 voices in this poem. And the first poem says, "What if I fall?" And the second voice says, "Oh, but my darling, what if you fly?"
Fabulous. David, that is a wonderful, wonderful way to conclude this interview. And that concept of kindness that's come out of both of these two interviews tonight, and being a bigger giver than receiver. I think we can all take that away. Thank you very much. We wish you all the very best where you are. I said there was going to be one final question that we would come back to. A binary answer to the question, will we win? You don't need to answer that. David, it's been an absolute delight to see you again. Well done, and thank you very much indeed.
I wish I was in the room with you.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, Charles, thank you again. It's always a joy connecting with you. You have such great questions. I really love speaking with you. You make it very, very easy. I wish I was in the room there with yourself and with everyone else. But for everyone in the room, stranger things have happened. Don't be afraid to dream big. What's the worst that could happen? It might not work out. What if it does?
Wonderful final advice. Thank you very much. One final round of applause. Well done, David. Thank you very much indeed.